seat in the harvester is actually quite hard, and it's been annoying me, especially if doing full days in it. So simple solution was to add something under the cover that's on there. It's a little bit damaged on the backrest and so on. I think it's the original seat, and machine almost has 20,000 hours. So, and here I'm gonna cover a few of the small problems I had. We had one hose break on the forwarder, on the arm of it. I also messed up a little bit on the harvester. I said forwarder about this one, I think I did. The harvester, I thought for a moment I could twist the harvester head all the way around. Well, I messed up and twisted it a little too far, and one hose took damage. The return for return oil, we were lucky in both cases to find spare hoses in the garage, so this could be sorted out. And I also found a hose that worked with the harvester head. It was a little bit longer than what was on there, but it worked. Didn't get any video working on the other machine, but it's quite simple repairs. That's good. I like simple repairs. Both machines have been performing very well at the beginning of the season, and it's time to give them some, well, apart from needing to measure a whole lot to get the harvester to be good, but now it seems to be steady and a couple of percent off with measuring, so that's good. It's time to give them some love with some maintenance. They have been lubed by the book and maybe a little more than needed. Did have a small issue with the holder for the timber tails. I got kind of a hissing sound from it, and I think it has gotten some moisture in there, kind of a short out. Very simple to open up a couple of screws, sprayed some contact cleaner in there, and problem went away. But I did try to mount it upside down when I put it in there. Then the timber tail didn't fit in the place it was supposed to be, so I had to flip it. The old snowmobile was brought out of summer hibernation. It could be good to find if the snow conditions become right, because this old submarine of a snowmobile needs good conditions. I had bent one of the swords slightly, and directly after changing to the other one, the top wheel of it exploded, so I had to start going through all the swords for the harvester, and seems to be a shortage of supply for it, and buying new top wheels for these GB titanium swords, they are on back order until this summer, it seems. I've sourced a couple of swords now, and I have plenty of chains, so I should be set for the rest of the logging this winter at least. The sword I had damaged did not just have a slight bend in it, it also had kind of a twist. We did try to bend that back into shape slightly, so it's good enough that I can use it if needed, but I'll put it at the back of the spare pile. That's usable for now. Tried replacing the battery in my phone because it's been acting up, and something I thought it had bulged, expanded, swollen a bit, but maybe that wasn't the case because the display was starting to come off, and that failed miserably. The modern phones that are glued shut, what a stupid solution. Well, add some waterproofness, but I damaged the display and the camera doesn't work anymore, so this phone still functions somewhat, so it will serve as a forest phone this summer, while I still have the new Fairphone 4 I have ordered that it's easy to repair stuff, but it's not very waterproof, so if there is risk of it getting wet, I will try to use the old one. My dad's car needed a little attention. A link arm holding the sway bar was worn and making a lot of rattles, so that was replaced. Quite an easy repair this also, luckily. Trimmed some branches of some of the trees close to the road where the trucks that will haul out the timber might have them drag against the cab, so. And here things broke again. The string snapped on me on this. I like this for thinner branches, this like pliers that you can cut them rather than have to saw them off. Some of the logs that had been cut very early in the season, they were mainly wind-fallen trees and such that were taken care of, showed signs of storage rot at the end, and cutting a disc off freshened them up. And yes, the saw is very dull. Time to tackle the big service on the machines. Well, not super big, it's mainly lubing stuff. I hadn't lubed the drivetrain. I think it's not called for it by hours, but I figured it's better to do it a little more often than needed on old machines. Some of the front end, there are some joints underneath. Here, these bogie bearing mounts, they are supposed to be lubed quite often, but I'm adding them here also because we're going over most of both machines. There are some drivetrain joints. The wind is really picking up under the gearbox in the back end, and I need to move the machine a little to access them. More lube needed, and I replaced the string on that cutter for branches. When my dad started looking at the old compressor he had gotten for free that had issues. Might do a video on the repair of that one later on. Try to clean up some inside the harvester head so things doesn't build up too badly. Also, that was lubed over. That's also a frequent place to lube, and it's better to lube once too many times than too few, especially on older machines. Same with the grapple on the forwarder. My dad took away some of the excess lube pushing out in areas. He had also cleaned the cabs on both machines, brought out vacuum cleaners. That was not recorded. I wanted to get under the cab on this one. If you followed my previous videos, you know I've been under here before, and this time the pins came out easily. First time it was a real struggle. Cab could be pumped up for access. I wanted to look after some of the cables that were broken here. It's mainly ground connections, and the machine worked fine even with them broken, but the main reason was to ensure that the central lubing pipes in here were working. Really hard to see anything in here. I took some disposable gloves and dug around in because there is a lot of grease buildup in here, and ensured that the pipes were not damaged. That's the reason why this machine had recently had the slew bearing replaced, because these had been damaged. The central lubing wasn't lubricating it, and if you get some branch or something, make it sway down there and you swing around, you can damage them all. So it's better to get in there once in a while and ensure that they are good. Also greased up the hoses as recommended to reduce them rubbing on each other. They are quite bad, and I might look at replacing these as a precaution at some point, unless something breaks. We'll see what happens first. Cab could be closed back up. Not not gonna touch that anymore in the near future, hopefully. Central lubing was filled up, and I tend to overfill it a little bit and it spews out a little on the side, so I added a catch bucket on this machine because it's plenty of room for it, so hopefully that will reduce the mess. I have a problem again that the harvester charges brake presses ever so often, a lot too often, and I have replaced these accumulators once. They are not old, but I wanted to see that they are not busted. I had a way too large of a spanner, but found something smaller, opened it up, could poke in there. It feels rock solid, but maybe the pressure is low. They are not stupidly expensive, so I'm gonna buy 2 more and just replace them and see if that solves the issue. If not, I might have to dig deeper into some load valve or something. Coolant was a tiny bit low, topped that off. I later found a hose that seeped a little bit that I just tightened up. Hopefully that was all that there was. Both machines wanted a tiny bit of engine oil. I think both of them might push out a tiny bit through the crankshaft seal, and they might drink a tiny bit also, but that's not a big issue as long as you top them off, and the wind is really picking up today. Water was drained out of the fuel filters. The harvester had a tiny bit and a few flakes of rust, and I can see some rust in the tank, so that wasn't a big surprise. The forwarder was super clean, no water really to be seen, just diesel directly, so. Cab was lifted to check the oil level in transmission, no, the differential, front differential and gearbox. All fluid levels everywhere in both machines were checked, and if needed topped off, but most of them were good. Had also purchased a new expansion tank for the forwarder, because that one has been seeing some hot temperatures at some point. It's kind of melted near the mount, and I think it's had a rough time back when the exhaust manifold was cracked and a lot of extra heat was added to it. Checked all the bogey plugs. This was the worst one on the forwarder. And since the new expansion tank had been purchased already, even if it hadn't been really leaking a whole lot, it lost a little bit of coolant, but we had seen signs that it must be coming free. I also found a hose I suspect might have leaked a little under the cab that was tightened up, but decided to replace the tank. At least it's easier to see the level now, even if you would think they would have had clear sides. They are like white, but now you can at least put the flashlight down there and see the level with the new tank. It's quite easy to remove, just a few hoses and some clamps holding it in place. My dad had already drained it, so. There are 2 electric connectors that need to be removed. That's for the low level warning. It gives some false readings on that every now and then, this machine. Don't know why, if it's bad connection or some wire being a little damaged. And then 1 more hose at the bottom. That's a little hard to get to. Here you can see it's kind of lost its shape a little here because of it being really hot at some point. New one going in place, it's just a matter of refitting everything. Quite easy fix also. I hope that was the biggest part of the coolant leak problem. Worst plug of them all is on that side where I've been digging out a whole lot of debris from the harvester bogey. It has a few little bigger shiny bits. I must check it a little more frequently on this machine. A couple of the bogies needed a little oil added to them after me checking the plugs. So that was done on both machines. Could see a couple of the circ fittings, grease fittings, pushed out a little grease snake, grease worm, so they were replaced. Filled some saw bar oil, cut a lot more than needed, because when it's rotten I want to make small stumps, no good breeding grounds for the bark beetles that are giving me problem. Missed recording, we topped up the front differential on the harvester because I've found signs that it pushes somewhat oil out into the brake housings of it. So, and then the little LED lights that we don't really use a whole lot that I had added on here as a maintenance light had lost the glass on it, and here the angle was really poor, so we glued that in place. It was kind of stupid to replace them with an LED, but it's done, so it's there, and better have the protective glass on it. The windows were cleaned, especially on the harvester. I had gotten some oil on there at some point, I think it was from the saw bar. We should have found time to do it the day before, because then it was a lot warmer. Here it got colder, but with some washer fluid and a little bit of warm water it was possible to get the oil off. The cheapo tire pressure sensors that were placed on the forwarder, one is acting up. It has lost one tire for now, and turned out the battery in the sensor is dead, so we'll need to replace that and see if it starts working again. For some reason one of the horns on the forwarder has gotten stuck in the extended position. It should be able to be lower. We tried lifting it and pushing it down. My dad had by mistake pulled it up. He had done the same on the one on the other side, but that one it works, that when you fold it in and out it goes down to the low position, but this one seems to be staying in the up position. I will not break it apart to figure out what's wrong. It will be like this all winter if so, but during the summer off months we will probably break it apart and see if we can kill this function and just use them in the low position. That's it for now. More will come. Hopefully the machines will hold up, and I can keep logging for a few more months.